Hey there, I'll be showing you a rundown of the Atlas strategies I've used to make money throughout this league. I don't consider myself an outstanding PoE player, but I do like to make currency. I usually get to maps around 7 to 8 hours at league launch and also tend to avoid some of the more generic mechanics like Legion or Breach that have seen soft popularity in leagues past. I'm also relatively lazy and want to see my map strategies be low effort set up. Aside from one particular idea I had, this is generally how all of the strategies in this video go. Starting off, I'm going to showcase my league start strategy, which is a zero investment blight and ritual strategy. This goes entirely into natural spawn chance, does not use any scarabs or map crafts. Basically, I'm just taking all of the essence or all of the blight nodes, all of the ritual nodes that are relevant. Up here, I'm taking guaranteed 4 altars, which is very useful for making sure you always get a lot of tribute in your rituals. I go over here and grab the reroll related notables, which is this one, which is additional reroll cost. Over here reduces it even further, and this one allows you to reroll twice. These 4 in combined, these 4 clusters of notables on the Atlas tree gives you usually 3 rerolls, assuming you don't get a good item that costs a lot of tribute, which gives you a higher chance of finding good raw currencies or good items to sell. And that is very good, especially for league launch or when you're on a low budget, when you don't have money to invest in something, or want to wait to sell items such as like essences that are generally more valuable to wait to sell in bulk. The other part of the strategy is Blight. You can see that I'm taking every Blight note effectively. First note is that immune response is very dangerous if your build is not strong. If you do not have a strong build already, I don't recommend taking immune response, while sturdy construction can help make that relatively easier due to the fact that it makes them take more damage and also gives your Blight pump a bigger buffer with the double health. It's still a very risky thing due to how fast the mobs spawn and how much tankier the mobs are because they are non-unique, or they are non-rare, non-basic mobs, is how I should describe it. Over here, the core nodes that you need are Epidemiology, which gives you 3 blighted chests are lucky, but more importantly, it gives you a large spike in chance to get blighted maps from your blighted chests. This, combined with the nodes up here, which basically help you get more blighted maps, as well give you a large spike in blighted maps compared to not having them at all. The other important interaction is the Stilled Fungus and Blight Spawn. Blight Spawn, as you can see here, drop oil extractors, and less importantly for the generic strategy, can buff the tier of oils by 1 tier at a random proc rate. This can be good, but you won't see many golden oils doing this strategy. You might see some silvers proc up from opalescent, and you might see some opalescents proc up from black. But overall, the important part of this is the oil extractor, combined with Distilled Fungus, which gives you a guaranteed anointed item for every blight you do in a map because it forces a blight boss, which will always drop an anointed item. If you get additional ones naturally spawning, it gives you even more anointed items. But if basically your goal here is to get oil extractors from Blight Spawn and look for anointed items from Distilled Fungus that have golden oils as part of the anoint. You can see this very easily using a tool like Awaken PoE Trade. When you go to price check the item now, as long as it's unidentified, it will show you the anoint and the oils used on that anoint. It makes it very easy to immediately check if your anointed item in a map is good, and you can decide whether to keep it or just drop it immediately. And that is the basic core of the strategy. If you are just starting out, you can prioritize taking Fungal Bloom into Epidemiology. I would recommend then going into some ritual nodes. When you feel like your build is strong enough, take Sturdy Construction into Immune Response. I would delay getting Heist nodes because Heist is generally more valuable at higher item level. But if you're just starting out and you're in like white or yellow maps, do not take the Heist nodes yet. When you get to red maps, I recommend taking them. The same thing with Exarch nodes. You can skip over like this. I would recommend taking these Exarch nodes when you get to red maps, when you start farming Exarch altars. And the Ritual 4 altar map is also relatively low priority compared to the reroll ones because 4s can spawn naturally. This just forces it to happen. The second strategy on the list is a low investment blight and essence strategy. In this strategy, you will be buying 2 things, or relatively 1 thing, but you'll be spending money on 2 things. The first thing you'll need are rusted blighted scarabs. You can see that I've taken away all my blight chance nodes, so primarily the fungal bloom cluster, which provided a large amount of blight encounter chance, has been removed. And basically you're going to replace this with blighted scarabs, which force the blight to spawn, so you'll have one every map. You'll have even more chances to get blighted maps, and you'll also get these 4 points back to spend elsewhere for more money. And you'll also notice that we've moved out of Ritual. You can do this if you feel strong enough. I opt out of Ritual relatively early in a league because the raw currency that it provides generally falls off compared to other strategies as your character gets stronger. I generally tend to play builds that have relatively powerful single target because I like to do my own bossing. I don't really like to buy carries, although I played Lightning Arrow this league, so I did buy a couple of my Watchstones this league. But generally, I play builds that have single target, and that is what my current build does as well. So I like to play map mechanics that have power from people who have single target, which is why I opt out of Ritual into Essence at this point. You can see that all of the original nodes are gone. And you can see that I've taken pretty much every Essence node on the tree. The most important one, if you cannot get this node, do not ever go Essence, is the +1 tier node. This is basically all of your money. You don't have this, you will make substantially less money, and it is really not worth doing without this notable here. Shrieking is also an extremely important node because it duplicates all shriekings, and you'll see a lot of natural shriekings on your map because of amplified energies. Crystal Lattice can be delayed, and you might want to delay it if you're a weaker build because the 3 essence triggering on an essence can drastically increase the difficulty of the essence mob. So be very careful about this node if you are a weak build. And then obviously the one you should always take is Prolific Essence, which guarantees you an essence on your map, which combined with the map craft, which is the other part of the investment in the strategy, which is 3C. I'll show you. It's very easily accessible on the map device, requires no external investment. You see on the map device, you scroll down a little bit. Uh-oh, my UI is bugging. Basically here, you can see it for a little bit there, you can see that 3C cost. That's the essence craft, and it's basically just on this list. My scroll bar is bugged out. Map devices like to do this sometimes, but basically it's just here on the map device. Very easy to access, no need to make trades, buy anything in bulk. Right there, ready to go. It costs 3C, and it is pretty much always usable or always worth using. I highly recommend it if you go essence. These 2 strategies that I'm going to show you next are basically the same strategy, just mutated a little bit. Disclaimer, I don't particularly recommend these strategies for most people. They require a very solid build. They are extremely dangerous. The mobs are very tanky because you're playing with Beyond and Bestiary, and in the second variant you're going to be playing with possessed monsters. You're still doing essences as well. You're basically dealing with non-stop extremely strong mobs. Your build is not tanky and does not do good single target damage. It probably isn't good for you. It's probably not good for you anyway. The currency generation is still probably less than some of the alternative strategies, but the upside is this build is very fun. This is the one strong thing about this build that is extremely fun, because basically you play this strategy on Toxic Sewers or Waste Pool. This is a relatively high investment strategy. You buy Gilded Blight Scarabs. Any tier of Bestiary Scarab, I recommend Rusted because they're super cheap. You buy Beyond Sextants, and optionally but recommendedly, I recommend buying +1 oil tier Sextants. All in all, the Gilded Blight Scarabs will probably run you about 4 to 6C, depending on how late in the league it is. The Bestiary Scarabs are 1C each-ish, maybe a little bit more if you buy them in large bulk. The Beyond Sextants, at the time that I did this strategy, were about 12 to 15C. The +1 oil tier Sextants are about, when I did it, 30C-ish, give or take a little bit. So this is a relatively high investment strategy. Not super high, you're not throwing like Delirium orbs, you're not throwing like Giga Scarab Possessed Monster Sextants on anything, so it's not like 1 divine per map, but it is around 20 to 30C depending on if you already have the maps or if you're buying the maps. As I said before, I recommend doing this only in Toxic Sewers and Waste Pool, because using Gilded Blight Scarabs with Toxic Sewers and Waste Pool will give you a ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous amount of blighted maps, and then combined with Blight Spawn and the +1 oil Sextant, you're going to be receiving a lot of golden oils as well. This strategy also gets a ton of blighted or beyond mobs, because you are using Bestiary, which spawns Red Beast, which spawn a lot of minions, and all of those minions can trigger beyond portals. The same thing applies to Blight monsters. The Blight encounter, all of the Blight mobs can also trigger beyond portals, which means you're also constantly summoning beyond monsters during the Blight encounters. As I said before, that makes this a little bit hard of a strategy, because you're going to get overwhelmed by beyond minions while you're doing basically anything. but the map density is absolutely ludicrous. You're constantly fighting entire packed rooms of mobs. It feels really fun to play. The money isn't particularly amazing. You do make a good amount of beyond currency doing this, tainted currency. So if I show you my PoE, you can see that in my limited test, I believe it was about 30 to 40 maps of doing this strategy. I received this many blighted or tainted currencies. You can see I have 5 tainted orbs of fusing, which are about 30 to 40 C. I have a lot of tainted mythic orbs, which are about 15 C each, a little bit more in bulk. And then I have a lot of these other bubblegum currencies as well. So you can see that it does generate a lot of tainted currencies at the cost of probably your computer and your XP. What I moved into after that strategy experiment was something a little bit more solidified. It's something more well known. I moved out of Blight and I moved into expedition-related farm. Some people are like, oh, I hate expedition. It's too annoying. It's too finicky. It's too complicated. I mean, honestly, I agree. But I've been learning it a bit this league. I hadn't really played with it much before, but I've had a great time learning it. It's made me a lot of money. It made me a ton of money. Once you learn how to use the vendors, they're great. Honestly, some people love Tusion. I don't really like playing with Tusion. That's the guy with the currency gamble. I honestly just sell his exotic coinages, and I use the other vendors. You can just sell all of the real currencies if you want, and you'll still make money. That's also fine. But you'll see that I take all of the expedition nodes. I force expedition in this strategy using polished expedition scarabs. If you don't want to use scarabs, I don't recommend rusted. Rusteds are not really worth their price. If you don't want to use polished, I recommend just forcing them to spawn naturally, which generally goes along the lines of doing something like this. You'll probably like mutate the tree a little bit like this to get the expedition counter here. Just get these 4 modes. This is 24%. You'll go up here, modify this. This will give you another 8%. So go up here, tweak this tree to do that. This will give you another 8%, and then we'll take stream of consciousness because you're not using scarabs anymore. There's no other scarabs in this build. And because of the point crunch, you'll have to probably drop heist. Means you can block heist there, and so bring you back up to a valid number, although 132 might be high for some people. If it is, you do something like this to get more points back. You get 2 points back that way. I haven't thought too much about how you would get points back in this strategy. You can drop the quant wheel in the middle. That's 3 more points if you really need it. But yeah, this is the strategy that I used. It's a polished expedition scarab, no sextants, nothing else. There's other than the essence map device, but that's not really something you need to think about. The only thing you need to think about is expedition scarabs. You do the original variant that I had. Reload here. The original tree. This is the tree that I used. If you have extra points, you can take something like expedition chance. You can take quant if you want on the quant wheel. Moving into the Atlas strategy that I currently use, and something that I've been having a lot of success with in the small period of time that I've used it recently, is I moved out of Delirium nodes that you had in the other tree, which were relatively minor. We didn't really use. Like Delirium orbs are not worth much. Splitters are very worth basically nothing, which is a little bit sad. The simulacrums are only worth like 30 C per simulacrum, if that, at this point. But instead, I took out all of those nodes, and I slapped them into Harvest, which adds a little bit more time per map than Delirium did. But Harvest, as we move into the end game, Harvest always generally holds its value because it's used in crafting. As with Essence, it holds its value even going into the end game with more people farming it because there's more people using it. Generally, the value doesn't deflate too much unless people decide that Harvest has no use, but it's been holding its value in past leagues. We keep the same expedition nodes. You can do the same things before if you want to have percent chance to spawn expedition in this strategy instead, going stream of consciousness, grabbing all the percent chance nodes. You'll probably struggle a little bit more to find nodes because there is no heist in this strategy, unlike the previous one. So there's no heist nodes to drop. You can't drop the quant wheel in the middle. But overall, I've been having pretty good success with this build. Take all of the nodes, you get a chance to get on tier 4, you take these nodes instead of going down through here, because the T3 nodes are very valuable. They're basically the only way you get currency in Harvest. You can get them rarely from the white mobs, but the T3 mobs are the blue ones on the UI, and they give you the majority of your currency, and then it can duplicate from the doubling season cluster here. This cluster basically just gives you more mobs more chances to get currency, and then down here is basically just entirely for the chance to spawn it. Then of course you have to unblock it, and then I reblocked Delirium from the other strategy. Same as the other one, you just replace Delirium with Harvest, and you just kind of slam it. Honorable mention that I wanted to bring up for currency making is the Einhar Memory of Crystal Prisons. This is a strategy that costs about 1 divine per memory, but it gives you an absolute ludicrous amount of essences. I recommend this strategy if you are comfortable doing essences, if you have good single target, although realistically you don't really need single target for this build, because you can kind of abuse the fact that essences don't care about the tier of the map. But basically what you would do if you're doing this strategy on a build that can't view them in easily in T16s, and honestly a lot of builds would struggle with T16 8 essence mobs at the end of the string. But basically what you do is you take out all of your watchstones that you have, you would slam the essence memory here or here on the T1 map. It would do a branch out, for example, from Colonnade to Excavation, Shrine, Vault Pyramid, Plateau. And basically the first map would have 5 essences with 5 essence monsters that have 4 essences each. This one would have 5 essences each, 6, 7, and 8. I don't recommend doing this strategy if you don't know how to corrupt essences effectively, using randoms of corruption that you can see in my inventory here. The basic strategy is just, if you ever see purple, which is these 4, Scorn, Envy, Misery, Dread, just look for purple. Purple is the tell sign that it's good to corrupt. These can corrupt into the special essences. There's a few other cases where you would corrupt, but the basic gist of it is just corrupt when you see purple to try and get special essences. That'll get you the most of your money with the corruptions. You will pretty much always make money on these. When I ran a few of these, I think I ran about 5 to 10 of them, and I always made money. Even when I had bad runs where I got like 0 special essences, I pretty much broke even. When I got a ton of good essences, I could get up to like 1.5 divines in profit. But this is very volatile. This is very dependent on the price of essences. So just keep in mind that if essences have been falling in price recently, and these also haven't consequently fallen in price, that these may not be worth doing. But if you want to just kind of like, if you want to get into essence farming, these are a great way, because basically the only thing you do is walk into a map, gun through the map, do all the essences and leave, because you're doing them at low tier. There's not really any reason to do anything else in the map. You're not going to get map sustain, you're not going to get many good like items to drop because they're all low eye level, and so on. And crucibles aren't necessarily worth doing in low tier maps because you don't get much XP for charging a high eye level weapon with low eye level crucibles. One of the last things I wanted to get into was something that I've seen a lot of people show a little bit of anxiety with, is selling on TFT. The first thing that I can suggest to kind of reduce the complexity of the server is to turn on this option here, hide muted channels, and then pick 1 billion channels that are irrelevant to you, which are going to be most of them, including to me, most of them are relevant. You right click and you hit mute channel. For that was unmute. For example, if I were to do this again, you can see that the channel shows up. If I want it to go away, I right click mute channel, it goes away. It's being hidden because of the hide muted channels option. This way you can hide things that are relevant to you. For example, for me in this league, I have the bulk buying scarabs unchecked, because this is something that you can do, get your expedition scarabs. You see, for example, this guy is buying polished ambush scarabs for 4C. If we go back to the trade site, we go look for, what was it? It was ambush scarabs, correct? Find ambush here. See that bulk, polished ambush, with bulk. Did not uncheck expedition, sorry. You can see that bulk polished ambush scarabs are actually closer to over 5C. Now, if we go back to that guy's price, you can see that he's trying to buy them for 4, and I'm sure other people are doing something similar. This guy's buying Gilded for 9, those are probably way more normally. Which we can see if we like search for the market price of polished ambush in the Discord. We probably want to search justly willing to buy scarab channel, so we go polished ambush. You can see that this guy's trying to buy at 2C. That's kind of ridiculous. He'll probably never buy, honestly. This guy probably gets no sales. That's a little bit too much. Don't be this guy. This guy's buying for 4. This guy's buying for 5. Be this guy. Be the guy that's buying for close to bulk price, but you don't want to go too far under because you're not really going to get many trades. I would, at this price, I would recommend buying for 5. If you're really on a budget, you could try for 4, but a lot of people are doing for 4, as you can see. If you want to be the person that gets the trades, pick a number closer to bulk price, just put it a little bit under bulk price and go with that. For example, people buying polished, for one of my strategies, polished expedition is what I'm buying. You see this guy's buying for 4. They currently go for a little over 4, like 4.2 to 4.8 currently in bulk. Pretty much everyone's buying at 4. This guy's buying at 5. This guy's a crazy man. This guy might have been buying at a different price. Maybe they've shifted over time. Maybe it's lower now than it is normally. But you can see like the average bulk price 4C. So in here, all you need to do is like willing to buy softcore. You must have this first line, otherwise there's a bot that thinks you're posting in the wrong channel and it will delete your message. You type polished edition scarab 4CH, and if you only want to buy a certain amount, you can type like need 30. That way someone doesn't walk up to you and try to sell 100 and then bankrupt you. Then after that, put your IGN. For example, this. You type this, and you just hit send on this. You can send one message every 30 minutes in this channel. So make sure you come back and repost this every now and then. And similarly, like other channels that are relevant to the strategies that I listed are, for example, Essence willing to sell. This one is probably the most complicated and the most intimidating, and why a lot of people probably don't do Essence. So it's actually really easy to sell entire Essence tabs, because there's a lot of people buying Essence tabs at bulk when people are selling them at under market price, like these people are. This guy's selling at 100% of market price, 100. This guy's selling at 90, so someone might buy his. This guy's selling at 100, 110. This guy's a little bit crazy. I don't think anyone's going to buy his. Like, these people are trying to sell at the individual cost in bulk. The people that buy things here are generally people who are trying to bulk purchase essences and then do the tedious process of selling them individually themselves. So someone like him, this person, Yarna Tilt, will probably get his hash tab bought out. Same thing with this guy. And the way that you get this, message is you go, we're going to switch back to the browser, and we're going to go to this tool called tftpoestack.com. If you go here, let me just show you really quick. If you go to TFT Stack normally, you see on the left there's this option called, you can't really see it that well because my Firefox is clipping it, but you can see that on the left you can see TFT bulk tool. If you click this, see this UI. I've already imported my essences, but you can see it'll force you to log in to your PoE account and your Discord account to kind of sync you to make sure you're not a scammer. It's a little bit of redundancy. Basically what you'll do is you'll select a stash tab. So like mine is the essence tab, and then you'll hit grab items. You'll go here, you'll select essence from the drop down, and then you'll set what you want. So basically the percentage that we saw of the percentage of market value that we saw before, the 70, the 80, the 90, the 100, the people with like 120%, is this value right here. You can modify it by changing the slider. Basically, this is what percentage of the market price you want. If you want it to sell quickly and easily, you should always keep it below 100%. If you want to wait a little bit to cook your price a little bit, maybe you have a really high value stash tab like I do with 22 divines worth of essences. Maybe I want to wait and cook it at 100, maybe even more than 100, depending. Then you can leave it at this. You might have to post multiple times because it's kind of hard to sell a stash tab at equal to or more than market price. Especially if you don't have a lot, like if you only have like a 2 divines worth of essences, I recommend going to it at the highest 90%. This will just easily get it out of your inventory and give you the money instead of you having to just pointlessly bulk sell all of the things annoyingly, because it's kind of annoying. Sell essences. I'm sure anyone who's done essences without bulk selling on TFT, they've seen this pain. It's really annoying. I recommend just bulk selling on TFT. It's very easy. You don't even have to post anything for essences. This tool does it for yourself, because this post a TFT button will put a message in TFT. If we go back to Discord and we look for someone using this TFT one-click, this bot is that button, that post to TFT. It automatically posts for you. This is why you have to sign in with Discord and PoE and stuff like that, and put in your IGN here and sync all of this. It'll basically create a message like this, and make an image of this, and it will post for you. And then it attaches your Discord account right here, so they can find your Discord if your IGN isn't working or something like that. And that's how you sell essences. It's very simple. Once you've done it a couple times, it'll be super easy. I recommend trying it. You have essences to sell. For Heist, because a lot of bestiaries use Heist, this one's very simple. Basically, what I do is, I don't exactly, what you can do is you can basically just look at someone else who has something like this. You can just copy their image, modify it if you want, modify the stock. For example, like if I have 3 gem blueprints, I can change that 6 to 3. I can modify prices if I want. If I like look up and see like this guy's underpricing his stuff, I can tweak it up a little bit. And then I would modify this, my IGN, and so on. And you basically just post this in here. I believe it says a slow mode of 10 minutes. You just post this every 10 minutes until someone whispers you in game, be like, I want to buy all of your deception contracts, and then you trade them all of your deception contracts. And then you're done. Life Force is very, very similar. You just look at what people are pricing them at. You can copy their message, put your IGN, post it yourself. You're done. Someone will whisper you for it. Same thing with maps, for blighted maps, for the blight strategies I had. You can see the most common price I've seen is 1 divine for 20 maps. Like this guy for here, he has a full tab of 60, selling for 3 divines, which is the 1 to 20 that I was just mentioning. This guy is actually underselling a little bit. He's going a little bit under that price, which you may want to do if you really just need the money like right now and you want to get rid of these maps. You can do this. You can underprice it a little bit. It'll sell very quickly. This guy, similar idea. He is selling it for a little bit under the generic price. Maybe the price is falling a little bit. Who knows? But 1 to 20 is a pretty safe price. You can see this guy, 20 maps, 1 divine, that sort of thing. You just basically copy this guy's message, literally word for word, replace your IGN, post it. You don't need the image of the blighted maps. You can just kind of post text. Someone will be like looking, someone who wants to buy the blighted maps will just be watching this channel for the word blight. And they'll see your message, they'll whisper you if they want your maps. You're done with it. That's it. It's very simple. You can post into every 10 minutes. Same thing as the Life Force one. Just kind of post every 10 minutes until you get your stuff sold. Very easy. If you want to sell it quickly, just underprice it. Someone will buy underpriced stuff very quickly. That applies to the Essence tab, the Life Force, the Heist. If you underprice them by like 10%, you'll get buyers very quickly. You don't have to worry about it at all. That's a quick rundown about selling on TFT. It's actually very simple. People make it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. Once you've done it a few times, you'll feel way more comfortable with doing it. It's a very useful place to get your money quickly for things that are often very tedious to sell.